No,
So this here is chapter 66 from my new novel entitled Pickled Punk, which is going to come out sometime next year. This chapter is titled In Which Breakfast is Served. Jordan was exhausted. It was 4 o'clock a.m. and the only sleep she'd gotten since leaving her boyfriend in Chicago was when she was blacked out in Mike's car. She laid down on the cot on the opposite side of the cell from the door to Mike's. She'd be able to think about plans somehow to get out of this mess tomorrow, but she had to sleep. Food would be nice too. The clowns that Mike shared his cell with were all asleep. The little one had a strange snore. It started as a high-pitched squeal and ended as a little grumble. Jordan had never heard anything like it before, and she'd heard a lot of snorers in her time. It was like, this little guy is going to drive me insane, she thought. Jordan was wishing she had stayed with Aaron. He was a dope, it's true, and his friends weren't any better, and he'll never leave Chicago, but he was nice and he gave her space and didn't ask a lot of questions. He wouldn't have ended up in clown jail, she thought. What Jordan wanted more than anything, well, besides to be out of clown jail and a cheeseburger, a good night's sleep on a bed, to talk to her mother again, and a peach pie. What she wanted less than any of those things, but more than anything else, was to have enough light and a Sharpie and a pencil and a notebook so she could make a real plan and figure out what the hell to do next and how. She went over some facts about the day in her head. They were in North Minneapolis underneath some sort of party supply rental company warehouse. Mike wasn't making shit up when he said he was being chased by clowns. What the fuck did this guy do? How can he be asleep on this cot with all this noise and with the smell? Jordan resolved to do some sort of background check on future targets before getting into the cars. Apparently, her instincts weren't as good as she thought they were. Jordan suspected that in a day or two, Aaron would start wondering whether she was okay. He may contact the police. They may start looking for her and even put out a bulletin. Minneapolis isn't all that far from Chicago, and not as far as she usually goes anyway. It's possible that someone might have seen her somewhere, who might see a flyer at the post office and tell the police. Maybe the bartender at the Big Boy? It was likely that Mike's car would get towed from the gas station. Would someone in the roadside diner identify her and link her with the car? Would the police find her purse under the front seat? Would they wonder why she was carrying so much cash? Aaron would tell them that it was his money, or would he? She was supposed to have invested it for him with her brother-in-law. Would Aaron suspect at this point that he'd been conned? The investigation could turn at that point from a missing persons case to a criminal case. Jordan needed to get out so she could set things straight and organize her life again. What if the police somehow tracked her to this warehouse into clown jail? That seemed unlikely, but that would be her ideal situation. She'd be out of here, the clowns would be shut down, she'd have the perfect, extremely odd, but perfect, alibi for why she disappeared, and she would claim that the money was demanded by them, and there was nothing she could do. She didn't know why they didn't take the money. Maybe because they're clowns, that's why. How could the police track her to this spot? No one has seen her since the Big Boy, except for the guys in the warehouse, and they'd be happy if she were dead, and they had no idea what was going on beneath them. Did they even ever get suspicious? Did anyone ever suspect that the clowns were this creepy? The more Jordan thought about it, the more she realized that they had the perfect cover for committing any crime they wanted. They were clowns. Hey, we're just clowns. We love the kids. We're all about fun. But they were the worst criminals she'd ever heard of. They weren't interested in money, and they didn't seem to have any other demands that she could figure out. Her mother once told her to think hard about what someone really wanted, but that they weren't telling you. If you want to know how to make someone happy, or how to avoid a bad situation before it becomes worse, Or how to get what you want, you need to figure out what people aren't saying. Jordan thought it was rather cryptic advice at the time, but she thought about it a lot. She assumed that her mother was talking about sex because it was the closest thing for her that her parents ever gave her to a birds and the bees talk. Jordan did her best to follow this advice, and she found that she was able to seduce anyone she wanted by just anticipating what they weren't saying. In high school, she got a bad reputation among the other girls because she wouldn't play hard to get. If she wanted something and a boy wanted something, what more was there to discuss? Same went for breakups. If the boy was losing interest, or if she was, she'd call it off. She didn't suffer broken hearts. The boys may have, but they'd have to learn it was pointless. And they got what they wanted, but they didn't know it yet. As she got older, Jordan figured out that her mom's advice applied elsewhere. Getting an apartment in downtown Chicago wasn't hard if you knew what the landlord wanted and could give that to him. She told him she had a job with a software firm, that she was engaged to be married, and that she was sure this would be the hippest corner and then loop in a few years, and she couldn't wait to be the center of it. It's getting kind of long, you guys okay with that? All right.
Oh, no, this is great.
All right. She may have gone a little bit beyond believability and making herself sound perfect, but she never got an apartment before, and no one was going to rent to a recent high school graduate with a part-time job, no credit, and parents who wouldn't help her. Jordan said she'd bring by the proof of income after she gets her first paycheck, but did he want to talk with her new boss to make sure that she saw the truth? The landlord didn't want her to think he thought she was a liar. He said that wouldn't be necessary. His building was a little run down, he knew, but it was so close to her job where she says she'll spend most of her time anyway. He heard about these software jobs. Then yeah, it makes sense that this is the perfect place for her. He asked when they could move in, and Jordan asked if tomorrow would be too soon. She understood this wouldn't give him the time to get it cleaned, but she would take care of that. She loves cleaning after all. Now the landlord was almost as excited as Jordan, and he couldn't even wait to give her the keys until she finished writing a check for the deposit in the first month. The clowns weren't easy to figure out. Mike believed they wanted power. Jordan was starting to think that what they wanted most of all was respect. Maybe respect was the way to get on their good side and get out of this mess. Jordan looked around her cell. The walls were made of cinder blocks and looked as if they'd been clawed on for years by a wild animal. The paint was old and peeling away. The front of the cell was metal bars like the jails you see in old westerns. She could see through the plexiglass on the top of the door between her cell and Mike's, and she could hear everything that went on in Mike's cell, because the wall didn't go all the way to the ceiling. In her cell were a toilet, a large plastic utility sink, a cot with a pillow, and a scratchy orange wool blanket, a dim light bulb hanging from the ceiling, and a wooden chair that was painted bright colors, like the kind that might be hanging on the wall in a Mexican restaurant. Where am I? Jordan had one previous jail experience, just that one night in county, and it was nothing like this. The clowns clearly knew nothing about running a jail. For one, the place was filthy. The county jail and every other jail she'd heard of smelled like bleach. Disease is a real concern when you keep unhappy criminals in close proximity. Proper ventilation, cleaning, nutrition, exercise, and sleep are parts of what keeps the place from turning into a war zone and are just as important as the locks on the cells. By the looks of this place, it had been some kind of underground holding area for large animals at one point. Maybe it was the county animal control, or maybe it was the basement of the research lab for hair products. It clearly wasn't built to hold humans. With just the dim light of a single bulb, it was difficult for Jordan to analyze the whole situation, but the locks in the cages confirmed it all for her. They were standard, cheap household door locks. Lions and bears wouldn't be able to open them, but a human with a little knowledge about lockpicking would have no problem. Jordan didn't have any knowledge of lockpicking, but from what she had picked up in her reading and obsessive watching of heist movies, this one should be a snap. She just hoped that someone else in here knew how to pick it. Oh, we're getting to the breakfast scene.
Yeah, breakfast. I don't know how much longer my phone's gonna hold out, but we'll see.
All right. Jordan sat in the chair to wait for morning and she fell asleep. In the morning, a clown walked past her cell and the cell next door and banged a metal spoon in the bars while yelling, "Wake up time! Wake up time, you scumbags!" The courtyard outside the cages was lit up with fluorescent light fixtures. Another clown was pushing a food cart into the room. The cart had 3 metal dishes warmed from below by sterno pans. The clown pushing the cart stopped it between the 2 occupied cells and removed the covers from the food trays. It looked like the remnants from the complimentary breakfast at the airport hotel. The first dish was half full, the back half, with a thick mass of scrambled eggs. The second dish held the baby potatoes cut into quarters with rosemary, overcooked of course. The third held gray pork sausages, about the size of Jordan's middle finger. One of the clowns picked up a large metal spoon and dipped it into the scrambled eggs, and came out with a large spoonful of steaming eggs, which he took a bite from. "Breakfast time! Ye should all consider yourselves lucky. We didn't always have fancy cuisine like this in here." Both clowns cackled and then stopped at the same time. The jail was quiet and Jordan could hear heavy breathing from the little person in the cell next door. It sounded like an old dog with a cold. The breakfast clown spooned eggs, potatoes, and 3 sausages onto a plate, opened a door in the bars in Jordan's cell and put the dish through. Jordan grabbed it and went to the back of her cell. She turned her chair to face the wall and sat on it to eat. Beside her, the clowns were feeding the other prisoners. While behind her, the clowns were feeding the other prisoners. Mike spoke up and demanded to speak to a lawyer. This made the clowns laugh again. Mike also demanded they put him in touch with his sister. The clowns found this hilarious too. Jordan finished eating before the other prisoners, and she brought her plate to the front of her cell. "Excuse me, sirs. Will you be so kind as to take my plate?" The 2 clowns were sitting on folding chairs nearby and smoking. One of them grumbled and put down a cigarette and walked to Jordan's cell. He opened the door a crack and took her plate, and then slammed the cell door shut and locked it. "Listen, guys. I know that this isn't the #1 thing that you'd like to be doing today," Jordan said to both clowns in the nicest voice she could muster. "But I can make it much more pleasant for you if I didn't smell so bad. Can I get a bar of soap and a towel, please?" The clowns looked to each other to decide. After a moment, the guard clown said, "Well, since you said please, we'll consider it." An hour later, the guard clowns returned with a clean towel and a bar of soap, and he handed that to Jordan through the bars. Jordan spent the next 2 hours removing her clothes 1 piece at a time and using the bar of soap in the sink to wash herself and her clothing, which she then wrung out as best she could and put back on. She was wearing damp clothes, but she felt like a human again and could think. She wrapped the bar of soap in a paper towel and put it on the side of the sink. "Excuse me," she said to the guard who had been watching her wash herself and her clothes. "Can I get a toilet brush and some pine sol?" That's the end of the chapter.
I love it.